Hello, I am going to show you a demo walkthrough of Grammarly Authorship. The first thing that you're going to do is when you open up a blank Google Doc on either your Chrome or Edge browser and you have the Grammarly extension installed, you will see a little icon. You will either be a modal that pops up automatically, or there will be a little icon down here that has a thumbprint blinking. If you see that, that means Authorship has been added to your instance of the Grammarly extension. You can click that, and a modal will come up that just gives you a little bit more information about what Grammarly Authorship is. If you've gotten to this point, you probably have seen this already, but if you are curious more about how we keep your data safe, what we track, what we don't track, you're always welcome to click more details around these particular drop downs or click the See How It Works button to learn more. When you click OK, it means that Authorship is now available, but it's not actually tracking anything until you click this Track Writing Activity button in the bottom left-hand screen. So because you click OK doesn't mean that Authorship tracking is now enabled. You still do need to click Track Writing Activity, and there's a couple more steps that are just very easy click-throughs. So in order for Authorship to work and attribute your text sources properly, it needs access to your clipboard. So by clicking Allow Access and then clicking Allow, Grammarly will then be able to have access to the most recent copy action that you have taken from a browser window, whether that's from a generative AI window or from just a traditional non-generative AI source. So now we're ready to go. And just so you know, at any point you could click Settings, you could click this button Start Automatically if you would like Authorship tracking to just automatically start when you open up a new Google Doc. I typically like to have that on so that I don't have to think about it. It's just always on. We always have a few different helpful links here, like report an issue if you see any issue with attribution or a bug that's happening, as this is a beta right now, which means it's not quite at general availability readiness. We always welcome issues if you would like to report them as you see them. And then you can always turn off Authorship or just click Stop Tracking at any point. So if I am a student who is writing an essay on the future of renewable energy in the United States, I will just do a sample here. I'm going to start typing this essay now. As you could see, I typed a lot of this. I see that Grammarly is surfacing a clarity suggestion for this entire sentence just to make it sound a little bit more clear and to get the capitalization correct, so I'll accept that. Now I need to go hunt down some more background information. So you could do that in Grammarly or you could do that in ChatGPT. And I'll say, tell me about the future of renewable energy in the United States. So it's outlining a few different things around solar, wind power, energy storage. Hopefully this is obvious, but I'm not going to be copying this entire thing because that would be AI plagiarism, but I do kind of like the setup of this initial sentence, and this gives me a lot of good food for thought to go do my additional research. So I could come back, I could paste this just because it's a good starting point for my next paragraph, and maybe I want to rewrite this a little bit. Poise is a bit of a strange term, so future of renewable energy in the United States over the next decade in particular seems in store for significant growth and transformation. Okay, great. Now I will go to Wikipedia, or I could go to any sort of periodical, and I will look up the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a key part of the paper that we discussed in my class. This has a lot of background information that doesn't pertain directly to my topic around the provisions implications for climate change, but here we go. Okay, this is all helpful. I could obviously look at these additional citations to get additional ideas for sources in my paper, but I want to sort of feature this particular portion. This is a good summary and it's a good jumping off point. Okay, so I pasted that in. This in past tense, change the formatting, and I'll get rid of this part. Okay, now there's a lot more research that I would obviously have to do as I build out my paper. Just because I typed this off the top of my head based on the prior knowledge that I had, it could probably be clearer. So I'm going to ask Grammarly's generative AI to help me rewrite this. And I want to make it sound more informative. So I'm going to pull up Grammarly's generative AI assistant, highlighting my text. I have an alternative here that I'm obviously going to read through before I include it. Okay, and while this is good, it's not perfect, doesn't necessarily sound totally like me. Mix of optimism and pessimism. I don't really like that phrasing. So I might rewrite this and just say, current outlook for renewable energy in the United States is one that has reasons for optimism and pessimism. This is obviously just a brief synopsis of the different sources that you may write with as you write something that's a lot longer than this over time. But to show you what this looks like now that we have enough text really present, anytime you want to see your report, you can click on that thumbprint icon and then click the button See Report. So this is going to show you a number of different pieces of information. So for an end user who's doing the writing, it's very helpful to see this analytics panel up here at the top. You can sort of just get a quick sanity check that, oh yeah, I did do most of the typing here, 71%, 161 words. A lot of the writing that I did do was eventually rephrased with Grammarly's AI. That's an important distinction because that does not mean that Grammarly's generative AI actually gave the output. I typed it, I just relied on Grammarly to rephrase it, and it was Grammarly's generative AI capabilities that was actually doing that rephrasing. Edited with Grammarly's suggestions, 0%. That's just because I only accepted, you saw me accept 2 words, and amidst the full text, that was less than 1%, but we'll look at a little bit later. You'll see some specific examples where if you are accepting those traditional Grammarly suggestions that are not from a large language model, that percentage goes up the more suggestions that you accept. Now over here, I have copied from a known source. So this is text that I pulled from a browser-based source, regardless of the type of source. It's calculating that it was 61 words, 29% of my document, 12% of it was AI generated, 17% was copied from a website. And then over here, you have additional analytics like the amount of time that I spent, the number of writing sessions. So writing sessions just mean how much dedicated time was actually spent actively writing on the document. When you've just sort of kept the window open but haven't done anything in the document, after 10 minutes, that session expires. And when you take another action in the document, that will count as the next session. So it's just a good indication of writing over time. Most students are probably not writing right before something is due. They might start, a couple days ahead of time. And this is a good indication of how early they're getting a jump on things and how much they're writing over time. Now we get into the actual text of the document, and you can see here that there's 2 primary colors, but as I hover over the text, I see some different cards over here. So if I just were to click on this, as you'll recall, I was typing this entire paragraph myself at first, but then I asked Grammarly to rephrase it. So in this case, it does say typed, then rephrased with AI. That's exactly what happened. In this particular case, this particular word, and you'll see this in a couple different cases, that was not part of the rephrasing. I went in and I made some edits, so this just says typed by a human directly into the document. If I did not take that action I showed you earlier where I asked Grammarly to rephrase things, it would just show up as typed by a human. But because, again, I asked Grammarly to help me with rephrase by making it sound informative, it now shows this whole paragraph here as typed then rephrased with AI, except for when I went back in and I changed a couple of the words around, which you can see here that has reasons for optimism and pessimism typed by a human. Now down here, you can see that this was AI generated from ChatGPT. Nothing that I had to do to, add that in. It just knew based on access to my clipboard that I was able to go into ChatGPT, pull in a small snippet of that larger output, and then make a modification over it in the middle here, which it is now saying typed by a human. So that all looks good. But it knows that this snippet was from ChatGPT. I could even, if it had been a while since I typed this and I want to go back and look at my prompt, I can click on this and see, it actually remembered my prompt. I can be mindful of citing that in the body of my document if my professor asks me to do that. Now down here, it says copied from a source, and it is from indeed Wikipedia with the actual link to that article in there. So it makes it very easy for me to grab the citation and just include it in there. And in fact, with Grammarly, I could go in and click get citation. I could copy it. I could move it over to my document itself and include an inline citation here. And then when I do that and click see report again, it actually shows that this is copied from a source, so it knows that I got that citation from the source. But it's a good reminder as you are writing to look at the authorship report as a final check in the process, and you can then see, okay, I need to cite this inline citation per my professor's guidance. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and the authorship report will know where that citation came from as well, just using Grammarly's auto citation feature. So the last thing to look at here is the authoring replay. Now, you yourself, as you're writing, may not be all that interested in this, but this is something that your professor may want to look at just to get a sense of where did you get stuck? Where did you need a little bit more help? How did you get unstuck in the process? It will show you the full editing history of your document. You can skip ahead to moments that have these icons down here to see when something may have been changed or when there was a milestone in place. In this particular case, that dot signified when I pulled in that content from ChatGPT. This one over here is when I pulled in that content from Wikipedia. So you can always jump to particular moments and then click on the icons as we were looking at before. So it's a really good way just to show editing history over time, illuminate a little bit more of the writing process in place here. And oh, by the way, you can also see that the time spent between when I was looking at the first report and now has changed because of that additional citation that I added in that was factoring into the total time spent. The last piece to point out is how you share your report. You have a share button up here. If you click that, you need to click this icon to turn on sharing. And you do have an option to either include or exclude the replay that we were just looking at. That is up to you as the end user. If you want the reviewer to be able to see your typing and editing history over time, make sure you check that box. Otherwise, you can uncheck it and they will only be able to see the report that we're looking at in the background here. You click copy and you can submit this as part of your normal submission flow if you are a student into your learning management system, or if you're a professional, just include it with the final document that you want reviewed. So that is Grammarly authorship in a nutshell. Please do use the functionality over here in the settings tab to report any issues. And we really hope that this is a useful tool for you in your writing process.